Hello everyone, and welcome to a different kind of video than one we would normally do on the channel. Normally we just play Onigiri, we stream it, we enjoy it, we come up with guides and all that fun stuff related to Onigiri mostly. But today I want to discuss something very alarming that I came across just browsing articles on the internet yesterday. Now, what I'm talking about is pertaining to one of Onigiri's competitors, basically another MMO on PS4, a very famous MMO, a very popular MMO, one that many people have quit this game and gone there, and vice versa. I'm talking about Final Fantasy 14. And that's a very, very long-running game. It's been up for years, and it's got a huge, huge following. Just trying to quickly pull up the YouTube comments, because sometimes PlayStation does not display comments that I get in the chat, so I have to pull that up separately on my computer, which is kind of annoying, but it's something I'm closely adapting to, getting better at it. There we are. Okay, so if someone does comment, we have the comments ready. Much appreciated. So, why am I calling this new terms of service change problematic? Why am I calling it a thought crime? Why is this even on my radar? I don't play the game. What does it mean for me? Well, I play MMOs. Well, not really MMOs, but I play an MMO. I've done Onigiri, basically the focus of this channel, for 3.5 years now, playing an MMO game, following it, talking about policies, talking about new updates, all that stuff. And when I look around at the other competitor games like Final Fantasy, I think like, whoa, it's getting a new changes to its terms of service. And, you know, I'm reading up on this. I see an article. I'm like, what's going on? So allow me to elaborate. So sadly, I'm not going to have any of the what I'm reading up on the screen, but I will be reading it word for word. So what's going on here is they've amended their terms of service in what they call adapting to, like, quote, it says in quotes, times have changed. So I'm just going to start reading the article, and then we're going to get to the part that is very, very problematic. So it says, pardon me for breathing heavy, it just came in from the shoveling outside, it's very cold, so I'm still catching my breath. The list of prohibited activities for Final Fantasy XIV has been updated to forbid performing acts such as making discriminatory expressions based on thinking. And that's the main focus of what we're talking about today, because that is some 1984 bullshit. That is some crazy, that's the territory no man crosses. Changes the developers believe are good for the community as a whole. The developers explained that previously they would try to keep GM interaction to a minimum, as they believed it would inhibit player experience, intervening only for certain cases such as racial and sexual discrimination. But due to times have changed, they now believe they should intervene in situations where a player is subject to the abusive behavior of another player, rather than worrying about inhibiting communication between players. So that's their words. Their statement also mentions that in order to keep players safe, that's in quotation marks, they will continue to monitor not only trends in the game, but also real life, and will remain vigilant of the social norms of our times. So, right then and there, for me, that's not good terms of service, because that's what Overwatch is doing. That's what you see many publishers doing recently, where they're going to follow someone onto their social media, witch hunt them, be like, oh man, this guy said a bad word in another game, or this guy believes X opinion, we're going to follow him outside the game and punish him for what he does outside of the game while he plays the game. Like, that's something you do for, like, your pro players. Like, if you're a pro Overwatch player and you're out harassing people or beating up people in an alley, yeah, you don't want that person being represented by a company. That's perfectly fine. But these are just everyday people. These aren't special people. These are just basic players of the game. And they're trying to police their life, like, outside of the game. That's crazy. I didn't even notice that the first time I read it. I only focused on what the article said. I didn't focus on that specific point about also real life. That also is very problematic. Very, very much so. So now we're going to get to the very, very alarming point. So this is a snippet, basically the parts of their terms and service that changed, which are very alarming. So it starts with a description of harassment. So this is the harassment section. Harassment means, and this is their words here, harassment means speech and or behavior that inflicts deep emotional distress on another person. It is an extremely serious violation where Square Enix determines that harassment has occurred. A penalty equal to or higher than temporary service account suspension may be imposed. So now, what that's saying is it did not mention context and it did not mention intent. Square Enix is essentially God in this case. Like, they have no higher power. It is them who determine what is or isn't harassment. So, and we're going to get into where this varies in a while, but you can already see that there's like, that description alone leaves a lot of potential for abuse and misuse alike. So then it extends on to, below is a non-exhaustive list of behavior that could constitute harassment in Final Fantasy XIV. So it's non-exhaustive, means it's not perfect, but it's not the end of it either. So this is the big one. This is the big one I want to talk about. So what constitutes harassment, and a lot of these make sense. I'm not saying it's all stupid and crazy, but this one, this is where they put in the bad stuff. So discriminatory expressions based on race, nationality, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, and thinking. Now, the first 5 I mentioned, I read these out of order because thinking's like the third one, but I left it to the end because that is the most impactful. Thinking. Discriminating against someone for how they think. Now, that's kind of crazy. Now, this is the sort of thing that you would expect for an employer to respect. Like, if the best way I can give examples for what these all constitute and why they make sense, except for this one, is, like, imagine if I was an employer. So I'm hiring someone, everyone's qualified, everyone is equally qualified, and first one, guy walks into my office, he sits down, I notice that he is of X race, and I dislike that race, so I discredit him right away. That's racial discrimination. Oh, I find out nationality. I'm Canadian, this guy's American, I don't want to do business with him, let's just say, and I discriminate against him because he is American. That's discrimination of nationality. Gender discrimination, girl walks in, I want a guy, I completely dismiss her because of her gender, that's gender discrimination. Sexual orientation, I find out this guy's straight, I only want to hire homosexuals. I can't do that. If I did that, well, then that is discrimination. That is discrimination based on sexual orientation. Ugh. Pardon me 1 second, my headset seems to be dying. Okay. Then the next thing, gender identity. So someone is a man, they identify as a woman, I don't hire them because of that fact, then that's gender identity discrimination. Those all make sense. You shouldn't discriminate against someone for traits they cannot change. That's generally been the consensus since Martin Luther King. You know, judge someone on their character, not by the color of their skin, not by the things that are immutable, things that they can't control. That's the biggest discrimination. Like, if you pick on someone because they're short, well, they can't control them being short. Like, it's like it's a joke, but then if you just continue to pressure it on, well, that's like, there's nothing they can do about it. You know, same thing as insulting a woman for having big or like a specific size of breasts. It's like, well, that's their breast. That's what they have. You can't really do anything about it. That's like body discrimination. It's immutable traits. The only times you can really discriminate someone is skill-based or knowledge-based or thought-based. Like, I'm not trying to point out like when it's okay to discriminate or when is it allowed to be an asshole, but generally, if you disagree with someone's thinking, that's where we're going to, the thinking thing. If you disagree with someone's thinking, you don't have to associate with them. Like, if someone thinks, like, especially with like political debates, like, if someone thinks X about abortion and you think the opposite, well, then you don't have to associate with them. You can still have a conversation, but no one forces you to associate with them. So, like, this is the thing, like, discriminatory expressions based on thinking. That thinking is infinite. Everyone has an infinite possible thoughts. No one is black or white, like, you instantly think this because X. Like, your thoughts are your own. That's your person. So, like, if this means you cannot make a discriminatory expression based on someone's thinking, that means I can't tell someone, no, I don't want you to join my party because, like, I don't like the way you think about something. Or I do like the way you think about something. Or this person is pro this political candidate, I don't want to associate with them. If you did that, then you would be, like, it's all just kind of messed up, man. Like, just reading it alone, just thinking discriminatory expressions based on thinking. So if someone thinks, like, just going to draw examples out of a hat. You're playing a game and one person is, like, pro-Brexit and this other guy's not pro-Brexit and you don't want to play with him because he doesn't share your beliefs, like, that's a whole thing. Like, what if someone thinks it's okay to murder kids and you think, I don't think it's okay to murder kids, I don't want to play with you, and then he reports you for not supporting his thoughts? Like, I know it's a very, very extreme example, but it's kind of really crazy because, like, reading this ToS, this Terms of Service, I think that I hope the original intent of this is, like, if you were an employer, like I was doing with the other examples, and someone comes in and you hold one political ideology and someone's completely qualified to join your workplace and apply, but they believe in the opposite political ideology and you chose to not hire them because of that, then that would be discrimination of thought. Like, that would exactly be discrimination of thought. But it's so not brand, but broad, that thought could be anything. Like, it's just, oh my God. Like, a discriminatory expression, but this is harassment. So expressions means one thing. It means insulting. You could, like, discriminate against someone for what they have, or it could also be your actions as well. And when we discriminate, like, let's say I vehemently hate a person because they believe that, like, something reprehensible is good and I think it's bad and I don't want to associate with them, and I physically go out of my way to block this person or blacklist this person and not let this person join my group or my party or whatever, the person could then report me, let's say in this example, for not wanting to associate with them, be like, hey, this person doesn't want to, like, let me play the game because they don't like the way I think, and then I'd get in trouble for it. And this person could have reprehensible ideas. Like, some people think it's okay to steal because they're poor, or X or whatever, and I may not agree with that position. And, like, basically they're trying to shut out all argument, anything. Like, what I'm getting from this is they're trying to suppress all individual characteristics a person may have beyond just pushing buttons on a keyboard and working together in a dungeon or a quest. Like, they're trying to eliminate all interpersonal connections that people have in the game. because everyone knows MMOs. People play, they have fun, they work together with a couple people, they get into a party chat, they start talking, they learn more about each other, this goes on, they become friends, then they have discussions. It happens with my friends in this game all the time, Onigiri anyway. It's the same thing. You make friends, you have discussions. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Oh, okay, cool. I don't agree. I do agree. And we have pleasant discussion. But, like, let's say, there have been times where I played with a guy and I was helping him out doing something, and I found out he was one of the biggest scammers in Onigiri, and I felt what he was doing was completely reprehensible, and I completely cut ties with the person. I didn't give a damn anymore, and I just said goodbye. Like, not even a goodbye, just like, piss off, I'm done with you. Like, I discriminated against him because I do not like, he thinks it's okay to scam people. I don't, and that was it. Like, but under these rules, if these rules were on Onigiri, that would be reprehensible, and I could be targeted for that. Like, it's, fuck. If you can't discriminate against people for what they believe, for the content of their character, then what individuality do you have? What preferences do you have? Like, it's a very slippery slope, this stuff here. I don't think it's a good direction, a good sign. I did hear the news, like, well, if we're talking about the same thing. But hey, Sapphire Man. Yeah, this thing's really bad. Super bad. So we're going to go back to the whole discrimination based on thinking in a bit, because there's an infinite number of ways I can slice how discrimination towards thinking is bad, because that's how someone comports themselves. Like, it would make so much more sense if they said belief. If they said discrimination against someone's beliefs, then that would be a different thing. Like, because people can believe that the earth is flat. They're a flat earther. Like, I may not agree with that, but it's their belief. Like, there's a difference between someone believing something and someone thinking something. Like, in certain religions, people believe that the earth is held up by 4 giant elephants, all standing on top, the world turtle, and that's where the world is, based on that belief system. But factually, the earth is floating in space. It remains where it is within relative distance to the sun because of gravity. Like, that's what I think it is. That's what I know it is. But people could know that and still believe the opposite. If it was said belief, I would not be even making this video today. But because it's thoughts, and thoughts can change. When you have a good opinion versus a bad opinion, if you can prove the good opinion wins. Like, this is why we have freedom of speech, because all the bad ideas will get beaten by good ideas, and it creates innovation. And it's just a process of evolution of thoughts, and the bad ones die, the good ones succeed, and the world becomes a better place. So it's better to have people espouse bad ideas, because good ideas will just win every time. So I don't know why this is happening at all. Like, I don't know why this is happening, or why this is even included. It makes no sense. Oh, you're talking about the Onigiri sublimes? Yeah, I heard about them nerfing them and adding new ones. Yeah. I saw the ones they're adding. I haven't seen any stats or anything, but yeah, I've heard about that stuff. I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem, to be honest. As long as they're all good, it's going to be fine. But continuing on with the article, so the thinking thing was the main big thing about harassment, but just to continue on, they also add the harassment also constitutes discriminatory expressions about someone's state, or it says a state, so I assume that's like, you can't discriminate on someone because they live in California and you live in Iowa and I live in Canada. Although that's like, I guess a state would be internationality, like, oh, he's from the Bronx, I don't want to play with him, or he's from this area. Like, you can't discriminate on someone from where they live in real life. Although I don't know how you're going to know about that, because they don't want people talking about that. You have to disclose that. But it also says religion, occupation, and organization. So if you find out someone works for the police and you hate the police, you're not allowed to kick them from your party because they're part of the police. Like, you can't do that, man. You can't do it. Or if someone believes in X God, or that the turtle holds up the elephants, that holds up the earth, you cannot discriminate against them for those beliefs. Occupation, that's okay, that's all well and good. Although, like, if you believe that religion is a choice, that no one is born into a certain religion, and that people are free to convert and choose a religion, then religion is a choice and it's someone's decision. I don't know, it's a whole other barrel of weeds to go through, but it's not an immutable trait. Like, these things aren't immutable traits. Like, they can be changed, but they require like an immense amount of effort. Like, if someone wants to change their state, they have to move. If someone wants to change their occupation, they gotta go apply to a new job, quit their old job, organization, same thing. You know, these things aren't immutable traits, but they're very, very, very hard to move. So it shouldn't make fun of people or discriminate against them because of these things. It also says obscene and indecent expressions are considered harassment. It also includes actions that inflict emotional distress using content related to historical events or crimes. So that's basically like, you can't call someone a slave driver, you can't call someone a cracker, you can't call someone the N-word, you can't call someone a gaijin, like, you can't call anyone, you cannot inflict emotional distress on anyone based on historical events or crimes in the past. So you can't bring up the past and hate someone because of what their ancestors did. And that's perfectly fine. You shouldn't do that anyway, because, you know, the sins of my father are not the sins of myself. You know. It also says stalking is harassment, so you can't follow someone around all the time and just stalk them. That's harassment. That one's legit harassment. Like, completely legit harassment. Harassment includes disclosing or indicating personal information such as contact details with the aim of meeting up in the real world. So you can't tell your friend that you're from Iowa and that he's in California and say, hey, you want to meet up one day for a weekend? We can go to this place. They don't want you to do that at all, because then that leads to attacks, that leads to stuff. It's more of a liability thing, but they don't want anyone telling anyone where they're from. They don't want any shit like that. No. If you're playing the game, you only exist in the game. You don't exist as a person, and that's it. And then the next one is disclosing or indicating another person's real-world information without permission. Now that one makes more sense to me. Like, I can't go on to the game and say, my mom lives at this address. Like, go egg their house. Like, I mean, you don't even have to say that. But you can't give out someone's personal information. That's pretty obvious. But when it comes to your own personal information, that's your choice. But they don't want people doing it in like a world chat or something, because someone's going to get the information, they're going to abuse it. It makes sense, but it's still very childish that they would go about policing it. I think they just want to avoid lawsuits that could be related to it, or cut their hands with it. It's like, oh, someone told them their real world location, they met up and someone got hurt. We're not responsible because that's against our terms of service. That, to me, it just sounds like a PR move, to be honest. I'm just going to check the comments real quick, because I don't have them up at the same time. Oh, there's Mike and Eric and Nick. So basically nothing derogatory? Well, it's not just derogatory. Like, we're going to get to some other stuff that's pretty bad. Like, the thinking is the big bad part, like discrimination of thought. Like, there's got infinite ways to slice it, and that's already bound to be a double-edged sword, 2 billion%. But yeah, stalking is definitely bad. But hey guys, how you doing? I guess I could Windows 7 this, like, stick the comments to one side and stick the article to the other, because we do that. Okay, perfect. Alright, it's all perfectly fitted. Fantastic. So next thing on the list is... So other actions that are so it just says harassment includes other actions that are generally regarded as actions that inflict deep emotional distress on another person. So that could be anything, I guess. Like, it makes sense. Like, you shouldn't, like, I don't even know what causes deep emotional distress on another person. Like, unless you knew all their real world stuff and disclose it, I don't know what's going to cause deep emotional distress telling you, like for true. Like, I have no idea. But hey, Mike, what's up, buddy? Long time no see. Got a question if you have a moment. Sure, man. You can post your question. I'll just keep going through this article, man. And I'll get to it when we got some time. For sure. So then they go on to say, these are prohibited in all places where expressions can be made, including chat, it says including chat, including quick chat and emote. And emotes. So if you, like, teabag someone, that's harassment, I guess. Markers, comments, and names. With regards to character names, if a phrase equating to harassment is formed within the full name, this is also regarded as harassment in the case of a group action. All of the members involved will be subject to penalties. Oh, well, yeah. Like I talked about a bit earlier, why I'm talking about this is because it's in the MMO sphere. So Final Fantasy 14's on PS4. I play Onigiri, I do Orogiri on the PS4 console, and it's in my realm, right? Like, this is something bad, in my opinion, and I don't want something like this to bleed into Onigiri. Not because I want to discriminate against people, but because I fully believe that discrimination of thought is some 1984 bullshit, and it has no place in video games and no place in modern society, period. If people aren't allowed to think, they aren't allowed to live. Control someone's thoughts, you control their life. Simple as that. And I don't think that has any place in gaming whatsoever. Like, save that for propaganda if you want to control someone's thoughts. Or limit them, same thing. That's why I'm covering this, because it's just, like, if there was a constitution of the internet, this would be 10 billion% against the constitution. Like, I'm pretty sure it's against freedom of speech, too. But not all countries have that. So, that said and done. That's a very possible case too, question mark, absolutely. But Mike, you asked, with the new games coming out, do I have any interest in Anthem? Not really. I don't, because Anthem's going to be like the new EA thing. And it's just going to be like in my opinion, to me, Anthem is like Battlefront 3, but with Titanfall mechs. Like, but they're smaller. Like, that's just what it feels like to me. Like, they have a bad track record of making this really cool, pretty hype game, and then you play it, and then the microtransactions come at you, and the game itself isn't that fun because you don't have access to what you want to do. And, like, Anthem, it just, like, it's just going to be that next big thing. People get butthurt, and the entitlement is really... Yeah, absolutely. Like, a lot of people need a good slap to the face, to be honest. Like, people need to learn to get thick skin. For sure. Destiny 2, exactly. Destiny 2, perfect example. But yeah, like, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like, you're saying you don't see it bleeding out into Oni because it just seems like Cyberset doesn't give a shit about anyone or anything. I'd agree, but on the Switch version of Onigiri, they added a button. So I'm going to pull it up on screen here. I don't have it, but in the system settings, there's a 5th button, and it's a whole section dedicated to submitting, like, tickets to Onigiri, because the Switch version doesn't have accounts, so you can't just message them. It's all, like, tied into your Switch account. Like, it's not a third party, you have to go on a computer to do it or send an email. Like, they have a button literally right there to report something that goes against terms of service. Like, Onigiri is moving in that direction whether they want to or not. And it's one of those things before anything. Like, it's one of those slippery slope things that, for me, the minute, like, I'm a free speech absolutist. And when someone comes after someone's thoughts, and this thing's a double-edged sword that will be used against itself and against others, and it's just not good, like, I gotta talk about stuff that's not good because I don't want not good shit to happen in my home. Like, Onigiri is like where I live, man. Like, I don't want shit like that coming here. Whether or not, like, if there's zero possibility of this ever coming to Oni, thank God. But in the slight possibility that there is, I would raise the quickest petition against it. Holy fuck, I would... And if it got that far, I'd jump ship. Like, if it got the full 1984 onigiri, I'm gone. Completely. I can't explain everything from the start, but I'll continue with the story, though. Case in point, to give you a small description of what's wrong, is in their harassment policy, harassment includes 6 things. Yeah, like that, but they clearly stated at the start that they're trying to avoid the whole block and blacklist thing and just put this in place. Like, they're trying to back away from that. Yeah, so what it said, and I'm just going to repeat it for Harai here, is in the terms of service, harassment constitutes against discrimination. You can't discriminate against someone for their race, for their nationality, for their gender, their sexual orientation, and their thinking. You cannot discriminate against them how they think. That means if you completely disagree with someone's views on certain things, you're not allowed to prevent them from joining your party or to kick them from your party. So, like an example I made earlier, like, let's say you're on one side of the abortion debate and some other guys on the other side of the debate, and you find their whole guts reprehensible, you're not allowed to kick them from your party or do anything that would inhibit their experience with the game. Because as soon as you start policing thought, that can be cut a million, infinite, billion different ways. And it's not good. Definitely not good. Because whereas the other things that are on that list are immutable traits that people cannot change and you shouldn't discriminate against them for it, thoughts can immediately be changed, and thoughts are not 100% concrete. Like, one day, you're not the same person you were 3 years ago. What you believed 3 years ago, you may not believe now because you've learned new evidence, you've seen new things happen, and people change and they evolve. Like, this ToS assumes that, oh, this person thinks that Hitler did nothing wrong, aka the meme, but then they actually do their research and they learn about the Holocaust. It's like, oh shit, you know? Maybe he's not such a good person. Maybe he did do something wrong, you know? Like, that's an extreme example, but I find it's the best way to get a point across. Well, they can find a new party then. That's why. Absolutely. Like, yeah, but people can frame things like, oh man, every time I join their party, they all just leave and I can't do what I gotta do. Like, if we just take all this stuff, and I'm going to always be, like, relating it to onigiri, like, what if this was an onigiri, and giving examples based on if it was. So, like, let's say, like, someone no one likes because they always lie and all this bullshit. Like, it's not coming to Oni. I'm giving my thoughts on it in case it ever came to Oni that this stuff is reprehensible. In my views, the minute you start, like, not being able to discriminate against someone for who they are, because that's what thoughts are. Thoughts are who someone is. If you just hate someone's guts because they're an asshole or because of X, like, you have a freedom of association and a freedom of disassociation. Oh, of course everyone would be banned, but they wouldn't rightfully be banned. Like, all it would do would kill a game. Like, this stuff is a game killer if enforced. It's possible they could put this forward, find out it's a load of crock, and not enforce it, and it's a good thing. But, you know, but you know, in onigiri, when you want to make a party, you have to make it through a recruit or a box in your head, and anyone can click on that box in your head. And if you kick them and you say, oh, sorry, I don't want to play with you, like, yeah. And party recruit, same thing. Yeah. Like, a lot of games have a bunch of different things. So let's continue on. I'm really appreciating the chat, guys. Really am. Everyone, too. Nick, too. Nick's raising good points. I enjoy it. So let's continue. There's one other part in here that's really, really bad. What happens if someone flames someone on Discord? Would you be banned in Final Fantasy XIV? Well, they said they're going to follow people off the platform. Like, I'll reread the quote. it said, their statement also mentions that in order to keep players safe, they will continue to monitor not only trends in-game, but also real life, and will remain vigilant of the social norms of our time. So Overwatch is doing it. Overwatch, if you're posting dank Trump memes on Facebook and people are reading, they can be like, hey, you're promoting hate speech on this channel and we're going to take you down. Like, Overwatch does that. No reason Final Fantasy won't do it. Like, Blizzard's looking at 800 people laid off the other day because of all their bullshit this year. Like, don't you guys have phones? Like, it's not pretty, man. Like, look around you, see what's going up. Like, get woke, go broke all the time. All the time, my dudes. All the time. Like, it's right there. Like, this is that scary Apple terms of service they want you to click on every couple months. So they don't want us to stalk or talk shit to players, but they turn around and do it? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, like, if someone reports it, like, hey, that's like Nicky J95, he carried me in this dungeon, it turns out he is pro child murder from the new bill there. Like, he's okay with people killing babies moments after they're born. Like, this guy believes in child murder, so look at him, he's doing this, he's a really powerful player. Oh, he does this, he believes in infanticide? Oh, then fuck him. Like, you know. That's where you're wrong, Harai. That's where you're wrong, because we're gonna get to the opinion piece at the bottom. So let's continue, shall we? Because we're not there yet. Okay. So let's go to the next thing. There may be other types of harassment that do not fit into any of the categories described above. Square Enix may determine that conduct constitutes harassment even if such conduct is not expressly prohibited herein. Now we get to nuanced behavior. And this is the other thing that's the big problematic thing on here. The main three are the thing about discrimination against thinking, and that they'll follow people off the platform too. Nuanced behavior. Nuanced behavior means speech or behavior that hurts others or obstructs gameplay. This is that part I was talking about earlier. Obstructs gameplay, kicking someone from a party. Oh, imagine you're on a boost and you join someone's body party and turns out they hate your guts and they say, fuck you, kick them. Well, it's like, man, this guy he's obstructing my gameplay. Like, that's obstruction to gameplay. But then it says obstruction of gameplay, but which is not classified as harassment. Even if it was not the intention, intention doesn't matter. Context doesn't matter. Count Dankula all over again. A penalty may be imposed if the end result was another person was hurt or obstructed. Like, if you stand near a player's house, they ban you for it if they report you. That's really weird. But moving on from the point of intent does not matter, even if it was not the intention. So you accidentally bumped onto a guy and stole his field boss because you didn't see the person load in. You just obstructed this man's gameplay. Fucking report this guy. Get out of here with your mount. What the hell do you mean you stole my kill? You're obstructing my gameplay. Get banned. Yeah, intent. So let's continue. Below is a non-exhaustive list of examples of nuanced behavior. Offensive expression. Offensive expression means an expression in general that inflicts emotional distress by being offensive to another person. Offensive expression may include. Now that's obvious. That's nothing wrong with that. But what's aggressive expressions such as violent language, slander, insults, threats? Absolutely. Get them out of here. We don't need that. Expressions that provoke or belittle another person, such as criticism, negation, and ridicule. Here, if it's excessive criticism, I'm glad they said excessive, because if it was just criticism, fucking delete your account right now. Log out until this gets fixed. But excessive criticism, that's literally telling someone they suck 70 billion, man. You're giving their opinion, you want to make them better. That's fine. But excessive criticism, if it's excessive. So what's this comment here? So if you don't like someone and they go in your house and you kick them out, the cops will come to your house and arrest you because of the new ToS? If you don't like the way, only if you don't like the way they think. Only if you don't like the way they think. If they think they have the right to intrude upon your house and you kick them out of your house because they did that, but they're only doing what they think was right, then yeah, you're banned. It's the same thing with gun laws in the US. If someone's entering your house and you shoot them and they land outside your house, if they're crawling in your window and you shoot them with your shotgun to protect your property, but they land outside your house, you've now killed a civilian. But if they land inside your house, you're fully within your rights. So they always say if you're going to shoot someone and land outside your house, drag them inside the house immediately. Not saying you should, but that's the general expression. Just to relate to that. So moving on to the next thing. Expressions that significantly lack consideration for the other person. So, nothing really wrong with that. The extreme of it would be, man, you can't run with us anymore because you're not at our skill level yet. Go get good. Stop wasting my damn time. Get out of my party. Go watch some guides and come back when you're good. I don't care that you don't have any money, you don't have a mount, get out of my party. That would be a super extreme lack of consideration for another person. If someone were to go to that extent, that would be an example of a significant lack, expressions that significantly lack consideration for another person. I mean, it's also the same thing as saying, I don't give a shit, because that's the only way to lack consideration for anything. That's literally it. You're not allowed to give a shit. You're not allowed not to give a shit. You must give at least one kernel of shit for every person who plays this game. You have to respect them. You have to. Now here's the biggie. Expressions that unilaterally reject another person's opinion. I'll read that again. An offensive expression is an expression that unilaterally reject another person's opinion. This is only Final Fantasy 14's terms of service, absolutely. But what does this imply? Harai knows exactly why he's laughing. Because it's unconstitutional. That is the most bullshit thing I've ever seen in my life. So here's an example. This man thinks the world is flat. I think he's fucking stupid. I don't want to play with someone who's stupid. But I've unilaterally rejected his opinion. Therefore, I'm being offensive toward him. This person thinks it's okay to not vaccinize your kids. I think he's really stupid. I think that opinion is bad. I'm going to present him with some data that show child mortality. But I've just unilaterally rejected his opinion. Therefore, I'm the bad guy. So, if this were to go into fruition and we watch this happen for 5, let's say this is in effect for a year and it is fully enforced, in a year's result, the entire game will just be filled with stupid people who think stupid shit. And they're going to manifest together until the flat earthers are no longer vaccinating their kids, and the vaccinated kids are all homeschooled to think that the world is flat. and so on and so forth, because there's not a good idea around to fucking refute them. Like, it's literally NPC City. Like, and it's just gonna be like the fuck. Just fuck. Really. It's just bad. Let's just play in the fire and kill the boss. Like, yeah, like in my opinion, we should not have a kite, because it's not fair to the people. When you come into the video of I don't want to play with stupid people, basically, exactly, freedom of association. I don't. I want to play with smart people. I want to play with people on my own intellectual level and have fun. Absolutely. But welcome, Fang. So, expressions that would unilaterally reject another person's opinion. So if their opinion is that it's okay to be, like, you just literally insert any completely reprehensible opinion to have, and if you unilaterally reject another person's opinion, that's against terms of service. So if in someone's opinion, it is like you can't have a discussion. Like, let's say someone wanted to talk about the whole don't negotiate with terrorists bit, because there's a big debate about that. It's like, even if you start that debate and you fully have two people on other side of the issue and they start to clash, well, fuck, you're both banned because you both don't agree with the other's opinion. So, like, a misogynist and a man-hater walk into a room, they're both banned. Like, you have a woman who hates men and a man who hates women. They both log into a server and talk to each other. They're both banned. Because both opinions conflict with each other and they both unilaterally reject the other. If they ban that idea, then they're oppressing you and you're... Exactly. You might as well ban the whole game. Like, it's not going to work. Like I said earlier, like the end goal of this would just be they want people to mash around on their keyboards and not do anything but do that and don't talk to each other and just play game, put money in game, no talk, no community, don't talk to each other, just say this stuff. Like, that's basically what it's coming to. But Oro, what about if everything's just positive and it's like, let's say, the perfect football team and everything is just pure objective, everything's just working on something, just team-based, okay, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, and we're just going to go through it. Right? Well, let's get to the next one. Expressions, offensive expressions include expressions any reasonable person would find offensive. So that's probably the saving grace in this, is that anyone who is far right, far left, or just on the extremes of their ideas is not a reasonable person. So as long as a centrist is unoffended, your idea is fine. But if an extremist is offended, then your idea, like, is fine. But if a centrist, a moderate person, and that's very loosely described, if a moderate person is reasonable and they get offended by something, then fuck, the whole place burns, basically. The whole place burns. So here's the next one. Here's the next one, right? This is the objective one. This is the one that the people who don't talk to anyone, they just focus on objectivity and just playing and winning, this is where they die, okay? It is offensive to have expressions that compel a playing style. This is basically the toxic elitist gamer mentality. So in a game like Final Fantasy, where you're going to have your Dragoon Spear guy as your tank, you're going to have your mage over there being pure mage, he's not going to attack anyone, you have your mages taking a defensive stance over there from range to assault, and then you have your tanks up front and your DPS mid-range, and you want everyone to min-max their abilities, and you want everyone to work this comp right, and you got to do the whole hut hooray, this is our strategy. If you want to compel someone to play the game a certain way, so if you're telling your tank to tank, and you're not letting your tank DPS, or you're not letting your tank heal, and you're not letting your heal DPS, and you're not letting your DPS heal, if you're not letting everyone on the field do what they want, I don't know if Dragoon is tank. I'm just thinking Spear. I know that someone said Dragoon one time. I have no idea. I don't play the game. I'm just talking about the policy. But basically, if you don't let the staff user attack with 0 mags, like Onigiri-wise, if you don't let a guy put 50 into every stat point and play with 4 different mags and only use affinity and let him test his build and he's doing 14 damage and you're over there doing 3 million, if you don't let him play as artistically as possible, because that's the way he wants to play, and you compel him to play a certain way, that's against the rules. That's what I'm getting at. Now, like, that's somewhat of an extreme example, but it does happen. Like, when I play Terra, I play the Brawler, who's a defensive tank class, but I still attack the shit out of stuff. If someone's over there saying, no, you can't attack shit, you must block every hit, or else, I'll be like, dude, fuck. Like, oh my god. Like, but you can't compel someone to play a certain way. To minimize parsing toxicity, I mean, no. I'll type it in the chat here. They're doing this to minimize the population. The only way I could consider them ever wanting to do this, enact all of this bullshit, is they're trying to kill their player base so then they can release Final Fantasy 17 online and say it doesn't have all that bad shit and you can play again and rebuild your stuff and put all more money in the game and play the same game twice. Like, that would be the only way I could see them doing this. Is if they're trying to kill this game so they can move on to the next one. Like, jump up the sub, like, if people keep quitting, they will. If people quit because of this, they will. Absolutely. But that's the other big one. There was the unilaterally rejecting someone's opinion, and then expressions that compel a playing style. Next in here, it's pretty lowball stuff. Expressions that attempt to unilaterally exclude someone from the game or content / community, etc. So you can't tell someone to, like, you can't exclude someone from the game. So that means when you're picking teams, little Johnny has to be picked. You know, you can't just leave little Johnny sitting there in his wheelchair and you're ready to go. Like, he doesn't have to be in a wheelchair, but, like, you don't have to, like, my god, guild application rejected. You can't reject anyone. If it's full, fuck it, man. You gotta get rid of it, make a new one. Well, yeah, some people don't play because of sub price too, for sure. I want them to rebring 11 out for consoles. Far better, perhaps. So next thing on here. Oh no, there's an expression. There's an expression. Not an expression, but there's a parenthesis. So it says, excluding someone from the game or content community, etc. This is the part where they finally said, oh wait, but what if? And it says, except when in accordance with rules set by an administrator such as a free company master. So I'm assuming that's like a guild leader. So like if a guild leader doesn't want someone to play with their guild, then that's fine. That's the only way, because it's already a pre-existing system in the game. And they're like, oh shit, we can't do that. But we can still make it so you can't discriminate against someone for how they think. Hey Tyler, how you doing? So next thing is offensive, and the next offensive expression is expressions that contravene public order and morals. So you can't, if your expressions contravene the public order and morals, then they're offensive. So that's really bad, because what if the public morals are reprehensible? What if the public moral is that it's okay to cheat on your spouse because every person in this community cheats on their spouse? So therefore, if you don't cheat and you think it's immoral to not cheat, like, it's a whole double negative thing, right? Like, this stuff makes sense, but it doesn't make sense in the context that the player base changes in a heartbeat if it so wants to. You're trying to figure out how to buy OC with my card through Payment Wall? Apparently my bank blocks Payment Wall. Yeah, I don't know, man. Payment Wall is a really big thing. Me and Mike, using the chat earlier, he had a big problem with it. I don't know much to do about it with PC. Like, Payment Wall is really weird. You'd have to... You can't even buy point cards because you're on PC. I don't really know, man. I think the Payment Wall shit's bullshit. You still here, man? Yeah. Cool. So yeah, no expression that's going to contravene public order and morals. So I didn't know there was a public charter of morals. I'd love to see them so that we can at least all have a basis, but until that's concrete, this really has no hold over anything and makes no sense. Next offensive expression is other expressions that are offensive to another person. So if you say that sword users are trash and that sword user finds it offensive, then you can't do that. So that's probably the worst one on here, is that offense is subjective. I remember doing a speech about offense in university 10 years ago. Like, seemingly like 7 years ago. Like, that's really bad. Yeah, of course, man. You want to get them accessories for sure. But other expressions that are offensive to another person. Offense is subjective. Like, I'm offended by pugs. So if someone sends me a picture of a pug because I find them reprehensible, then I can have them banned because I find pugs offensive. But on the counterpoint, someone might find it offensive that I find pugs offensive. Therefore, I'm to blame because I am not in acceptance to pugs. Like, it's like Yu-Gi-Oh! With trap cards. It's like, well, I have the offense trap card. I can play anytime I want in response to anything I want, especially in response to someone else getting offended. The only things that offend me are censorship. That's it. Like, censorship and prohibiting someone's ability to be the person they want without doing harm to another. Those are the two things I find offensive, reprehensible. Censorship and prohibiting someone from doing what they need to do in life or what they want to do in life, so long as it doesn't hurt another person. So basically inhibiting free choice, freedom, and freedom of speech and censorship. That's what offends me. People that think they can undermine those things, that's what offends me. Chain resolves backwards in Yu-Gi-Oh! So whatever the last in the chain wins the battle. Yeah. Exactly. Like, it's all subjective. It's not you can't measure it. You can't measure offense. You can't measure what's more offensive than something else. You might say it, but it depends on the person. Like, you might say, man, I hate your shirt. And someone would be like, well, fuck you, whatever. But then someone else would be like, man, did you know that my great-great-great-grandmother helped knit this sweater, and every single daughter in her family has used their own knitting needles to repair it over the course of 6 generations, and they burst into tears because you're now shitting on their family history and tradition and their literal family heirloom? What's more offensive? The first guy who said, I don't like your shirt, or this other shirt? They're both equally offensive and both equally not offensive. But since it's a subjective thing, it can't be measured, and it's a whole load of crock shit. Like, I would never touch this game, ever. Never. Not even experiment with it. Never. Never. But yeah, Magic's so much better than Yu-Gi-Oh! Absolutely. But I'm really surprised, like, the other big, like, YouTube channels that talk about policy changes and all this stuff, I couldn't find any videos about this at all. Like, anyone discussing this, like, people, like, no one. I'm surprised, like, I found this on, like, a article on Sankaku Complex. Like, I'm surprised no one's talking about this at all. Like, it's really off-putting for me. At least yesterday, I couldn't find no one. So to continue with the article, we're almost done. Offensive expressions are prohibited in all places where expressions can be made in Final Fantasy XIV, including chat, including quick chat and emote, markers, comments, and names. Use of an offensive expression in the form of a character name is also regarded as a nuanced behavior. It's a dead game. I figured that a lot more people played it, because I know a lot of people in Oni quit Oni to go play it. Players are beta, except for the elitists, so that's probably why. They're beta, like beta males? Damn. That's an offensive statement, Tyler. You'd be banned off Onigiri, or banned off Final Fantasy immediately. You can't say that about the snowflakes. You can't call a snowflake a snowflake. They find that offensive. They find their very existence of... like, that's 20 billion times more than Onigiri. Like, ooh. But yeah, guys, we made it through the article, and this article has like 100 comments. I was reading them, and they're all just, it's all just a butt fuckery of what the fuck, and giving examples of how shit this is, and I really enjoyed it. Let me see if I can find any more comments related to this story. 96 comments. And literally the number one comment, like the first comment, would have solved this whole problem. Yeah, you find it offensive that Onigiri has green and blue rolls. Can we get those banned? Absolutely. No. But this comment right now, if this was in place, would solve this whole thing. Leave political and social trends out of games. Done. Wow, that was easy. What year is it? 2010. Holy fuck, that was easy. I didn't have to try. Like, good thing they now have rules to force people to keep their politics and social trends out. Like, that makes sense until you, like, realize that everything is a trend, everything is social, and everything is political to some degree, or can be expressed in such a way. Hey Thanatos, we're just talking about this terms of service problem on Final Fantasy XIV that they ushered in, and it's very, very 1984, very authoritarian, very, very bad. Talking shit on the game term, exactly. So this guy expresses it in a very well way. Yeah, you're right, Tyler, yeah? Like, Oni doesn't fuck around with people, and they don't do this stuff. And it would be the final nail in a coffin for a lot of players. Yeah, people have very strong opinions, absolutely. This guy here expressed something I'd said earlier. He says, like, he's talking sarcastically as if it's, like, Square Enix here, like, just shut up, pay your monthly fee, press your 2 buttons, and don't you dare bring your life into your games. Don't you dare have a conversation with someone apart from, oh, attack that thing. Like, goddamn. Like, this guy is pretty down to earth, this commenter. He says, he's quoting them, harassment means speech and or behavior that inflicts deep emotional distress on another person. How then are they going to determine what inflicts deep emotional distress on another person? Anything can fall into that category. Try enabling mute, block, user features, including instead of virtue signaling and trying to tell gamers how you want them to play. Give gamers the options and features and let them decide on what harassment and obnoxious and to avoid these types of players. Like, that's it, really. Like, just give them the freedom to do what they want. Absolutely. Now, I know you can't tell someone, you can't Tell them to. Well, I mean, you could probably do a call out, but you can't tell them to how to play. Like you can't say, "Oh, you must do this build." If the subscription is 13 and the player base is 600K, then that is 9 million revenue a month. That's hella bread. Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be a lot less now that this shit's in place, though. So you're telling me I get to pay to play a game where I'm not allowed to share my opinions or think because someone else could completely refute them and then they'd be forced to be banned because their opinion was better than mine after we played it out. Like it's not even 4D chess, it's literally 1D chess where it's so like Neanderthalic that nothing can possibly virtually come out of it. So when are they going to get their shit together and make Final Fantasy VII? I don't know. All the resources seem to be put to make the ToS. That's probably why it's taken 17 years. It's not good. It's not good, fam. Now this guy raises a good point. He's saying what they're asking for is highly unrealistic. It's like saying, now this guy's like, he's against it, but at the same time, what he's saying is true, but not for the reasons he believes. Like, what he's saying, I fully believe with it. Like, people shouldn't do it, but yeah, he's saying, like, let people decide what they think is a scam and what is not. He's opposed to that. And it's like, like, of course you're supposed to do that. Like, you're supposed to let people decide what they think is a scam. But he's saying you're not supposed to let people think that's something, like, don't let people decide what they think is a scam and what is not. Holy shit, dude. That's crazy. Like, I couldn't imagine that for a second. Like, if that were the case, there would be no bank loans, there would be no insurance policies. Like, anything that could potentially be a scam, you just can't let them do it. Like, my God. Activision will take over? Activision wouldn't take over. They don't have the manpower. Then they get into this, like, stupid argument for a little while. Yeah, Blizzard had a big layoff, too. And then a bunch of people are just ripping on it. I can't read all these comments out loud because they're very, very offensive. But also funny. Something you found? Sure, man. Sure, man. Mike, show it to me. But yeah, guys, that was about an hour and 9 minutes of going over a little bit of terms of service, but it is fucking reprehensible, this stuff, guys. Like, it's super bad. Like, what do you think's better? Fully ornate event mags or regular mastery mags? Depends on the ornamentations. like, that's the thing. It's going to come down to what the ornamentations are on them and what mags you're talking about. Like, event mags or regular... Like, are you talking about the new event? Like, the rain mags? Or... What? I don't know what... Oh, you tweeted it to me? Oh, man. Blizzard gives employees box with 8.3% chance of containing a pink slip. 8.3%, that's guaranteed. And I gotcha. Wow. That's fantastic. I'm enjoying Kingdom Hearts 3. I've been playing it for 10 hours, and I'm enjoying it. Like, when you say regular, are you talking about, like, ornamenting them versus not ornamenting them? Like, it depends how many of the mags you can get, but if you can get yourself a surplus of mags, like, have some that you have orned for faded or whatever, and then have some you don't, so you can fit them into builds when you need them. It just depends how many you get. Well, Diablo Immortal? Don't you guys have phones? Like, Diablo Immortal's the best game ever? No, it's a fucking shit show, man. Like, ignoring their whole player base to put it on a portable? Like, you can't do that. That was a big failure for Blizzard. And then, like, the big failures of the year were Diablo Immortal and Battlefield 5. Like, and for Battlefield, I think that's Activision? I could be wrong. Is Battlefield's EA, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit like that. They're hiring for the Diablo 4 project, they better. But like the two D2 was a notable failure and wasn't Battlefield 2 this year. It wasn't just women in World War II. It was like colored hair cyborg women in Battlefield World War II. Like, it claimed to be a World War II simulator, but then they injected fantasy into it, and that's not what people wanted. And then the CEO said, like, they said the words, like, the thing that we all think in our head, they said it. Don't like it, don't buy it. Fucking easiest decision ever made. And they lost they didn't even make a quarter of the sales they wanted to. I remember I was Star Wars Battlefront 2. You're right. I thought Battlefield. Okay, yeah. Battlefront 2 was really bad too. Yeah, Battlefront 2 tanked. I'll still not forget why Battlefront 2 tanked. Is that one thing I saw where this guy was not able to pick a character to play because his character had already been picked by everyone else on his team, and he had not gotten a new character from the loot box mechanic yet. So he was unable to play because he didn't put money in the game, and that was my favorite ironic pie. Like, I ate the whole pie and I wanted more when I saw that one screenshot. But hey, Catherine, how you doing? But my God. My God. So back to the thing about Battlefield 5. So I was at the Boxing Day sales at Walmart um, the other, like at Christmas time. Like I was trying to buy some games on sale after Christmas, and I was in line, and this one guy wanted to get Battlefield 5 because it was on sale. And I told the guy, like, he was asking me, like, this one guy was in line, he's asking me, like, hey, you know if this game's any good or not? Like, I just got a new PlayStation, I want to get some games. And I'm like, well, the thing about Battlefield 5 is, like, that sale price you see there, like, $40 for it, it's been $40 for, like, since early December because the game's been so poorly received that they put it on sale right away. I told him, like, that's not a sale, that's the current price of the game. They're putting it there everywhere, online, everyone. He's like, really? He's like, why? And I told him why, because it's a World War II game, but they're shoving their own things into it, and they disrespected the player base. And the guy literally said, oh, I don't like that, and he put it back. The guy literally put the game back. Battlefield. So, like, those games that all tanked this year, Battlefront was because pay to win, poor mechanics, not even mechanics, just pay to win, loot box mechanics, like that bad stuff. So that's why Battlefront failed, and because Battlefront 1 wasn't received well either, and Battlefront 2 was just the same thing again. You know, I'm gonna rob you too, Electric Boogaloo. So then Battlefield failed because they completely mocked. They told their audience not to buy their game if they didn't like it, and they put their own agenda into the game. So Battlefield 5 was a get woke, go broke story. Battlefront was just too pay to win. And then what's the other game we were talking about? And then Diablo Immortal failed because they didn't know their player base. They completely disregarded that people play Diablo on a desktop. It's a desktop PC experience, and they don't want to play it on the phone. They want to play it with their cool gaming mouse, with recordable buttons, their awesome keyboard, their cool PC setup that runs everything. They don't want to just use a little phone. They want to play on their big-ass fucking monitor. They didn't understand their audience, so that's where they failed. Yeah. So I like Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I've only really played Kingdom Hearts 3 though. Like I'm 10 hours into it. I tried to play Kingdom Hearts 1, but I didn't really like it that much. I only played it a little bit earlier this year. But from what I played at Kingdom Hearts 3, I do enjoy myself with it. Immortal would be fine, but they told PC players it's something they want to see to find out. Like, yeah, they told them it's what they've been looking for. Yeah. But to answer your question, Catherine, like, I like Kingdom Hearts as a whole, but I've only played very little of it. Yeah, like, people are doing things to games, and the gamers themselves don't like it, so they leave. It's very easy. Like, there's not like there's more competition out there. There's not like there's more video games than like there's probably more video games produced than like books written a year, maybe. Definitely, it's more of an industry than that. Books for sure. The new solo games, well, yeah, they do really well. Like God of War, Spider-Man, Kingdom Hearts, they're all very successful. Absolutely. Um, the problem with single player games though is that unless you're like Dark Souls and people have different ways to do a run, and it becomes a run game. Like there's single player games where people just play it and they speed run it, like run games like Resident Evil, um, Dark Souls, like those kind of games where you do a certain tactic or a certain thing and you do a run of it. People just run those games. They play them over and over and over a couple times. They get their fill of it and then they're done. The things about single player games is they're awesome, but you can't play them forever. You can replay them every couple of years and relive an experience, but you can't play them every day. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Onigiri, I've been playing it for like 4 years. Like, I still enjoy playing it. If right now me and all my friends said, hey, you want to go do this dungeon and go fuck up some shit, like, we're gonna go do it. It's gonna be fun. And we're so strong that it's gonna be done in like 2 minutes. But it's still fun, you know? Well, yeah, like, games, like, single player games are a great true experience. It's just, that's why MMOs are just, it's an RPG that never ends because they always have constant support. RPGs die, naturally MMOs die when there's no more content released for them. Alternatively, we do it, like, the 2 minutes was including the load screen, friend. It includes the load screen. But yeah, like MMOs, they continuously get updates every month or 2 months, hopefully, and there's always something new to do for at least 2 weeks. And then you have 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And that's half your year spent having fun. That's a fucking good investment. Hey, Christopher. Yeah, Lance-out weapons are good for every class, for sure. For sure. For sure. For sure. Yeah, modding's really fun. Like, I like watching mods, but I wouldn't be able to just like me personally, as much as I'd love mods, like let's say I played Skyrim and I made every one of my summons like a different character from High School DxD, and I summoned them all as like a succubus sort of entity, and I played and I had like the Master Sword, and I had like all these cool weapons from other stuff, and it's all modded in, and it's really this cool customizable adventure for me. Like, I play it, it'd be fun for like a couple days, but then eventually I'll start to get to points where it's like, oh, I remember this one Draugr dungeon. And eventually, like, oh, you start to realize that all the giant ponies in the sky are dragons, and they're just reskinned dragons. And it's fun for a little bit, but it's not something I could do eternally. But definitely something you could watch a lot. Like, people make a new mod, you can watch it, absolutely. I do like Spider-Man as a character and as a TV show, but I haven't played the new game. Yeah, any weapon 125 plus is a good weapon. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, of course, man. I've seen Skyrim mods with Bowsette, and it was awesome. It was like the sexiest thing I ever saw. It was just thickness like you wouldn't believe. I watched like it for like 30 minutes. It was such a good time. I like that stuff. Um, yeah, for sure. Like all these, and like I was saying, the Activision Blizzard failed on Diablo because they didn't know their player base. They just, and the story was that they, like, Diablo Immortal looks like a rip off of this other Chinese phone game that was in development, and they just put Diablo assets on it, and people looked at it and they're like, oh, I know this animation. They just reskinned it, they reskinned that, and they're just taking this huge Chinese game development thing, and for phones, because Chinese have so many knockoff phone games, they're putting the Diablo name on it so people will buy it, and there's definitely corporate mergers involved, and they're just pushing this corporate deal agenda and trying to shove this game under a different skin to new consumers. That's generally the consensus. Um, like, that's generally what people are really thinking about that. Um, Microtransactions as well. But yeah, Christopher, even though the Lancelot weapons say 120 power, I wouldn't go out of your way as a wand user to grab 120 power. You're losing out on a bit of attack, but for wand users, you want the element associated with that weapon. The element that's put on the weapon, like the 50 rain and the 50 holy, and the 50 dark and the 50 fire, that's going to translate more for you with 100% elemental skills than the extra attack would by a large margin, I want to believe. So, like, that's what I would think. For sure. Like, You don't need 120 power to use the Lancelot weapons. They're fine. I would get them because eventually the Lancelot weapons are going to be power crept. I min-maxed my stats to have 120 power for the Lancelot weapons, but I would agree that when the time comes and the new rain weapon comes and the new 133s come, if they don't require a power investment on me and I'm able to grab more crit from investing in wisdom or something else, I might reallocate my stats. Like the 120 power is really good where it is, but as the game evolves, it's not that much of a burden or a necessity. It's just, oh, this is a powerful weapon, I'm going to use it. It's not a deal breaker at that point. Like 2 years ago when the weapons first came out, it was a big deal because that was going to be the weapon for 2 years. But now that it's not, it's not. For sure. For sure, guys. This has been a really good video. Like, I like this after video part of the stream where we're just talking shit about stuff. I love it. We're having a good time. But it is an hour and a half in. So I'll probably like to wrap things up within the next 10 or so minutes, just to let you guys know. But it has been a really good pleasure talking to you guys. I enjoyed the feedback very, very much. Just letting you know that we can keep talking and stuff. And for another 10 or so minutes. You could show the Finn stats, but 200 character limits. I've seen a bit of it, but for sure, man. Like, I've seen the weapon do stuff. Like, it's got like a healing effect. You need to be at high health to use it. I think it has a crit lowering thing on it. And it's got rain on it, negative fire or lightning. I think the mags are negative fire and the weapon is negative lightning or something like that. Path of Exile is supposed to be in PS4 mid-March. I've heard that name before, Path of Exile. I don't know what it is though. Earlier someone was talking about Apex Legends and he was saying how like they made it a big talking point that like they made it like a point that some of the Apex Legends characters have a certain sexuality. And he was like, how at all does this affect the gameplay? And like that's a thing. Oh, it's like Diablo? Okay. Could be interesting. I like Diablo-esque games a little bit. Never been fully invested in it. Cool, might give it a shot. But yeah, like he was talking about that, like people are just like, it's same thing with Overwatch. Like Overwatch, they're like, what was it, a month ago? They said, oh, after the game's been out for like 2.3 years, or like almost 3 years, it turns out that that Soldier's gay, and it's like, what is this change? Nothing. We just wanted to let you know. Okay, bye. And then they did the same thing with Tracer. And I think some other character. I'm not sure. And it's like what the Harry Potter does, right? With J.K. Rowling. Where like she wrote the book and then later she comes out and says, oh, Dumbledore's gay. But the book's already been written and it doesn't impact the story in any way possible. And she never, like, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. Symmetra's autistic, that's what it was. We knew that though. We can see the users resonating with the character. You know? Fuck, I'm gonna download Overwatch right now. I wanna play. I don't know why. Plus 50 rain, negative lightning, extra 50 rain, 100% health. You need to stay above 50% to keep your skill. Cool. Well, people said that about Hermione, right? Because in the play, a black girl wanted to play Hermione, and J.K. Rowling came out and said, yeah, you know, like Rowling made 2 mistakes. She made 1 mistake with that. The right move is she's saying, yeah, if you like Hermione, be Hermione. Like, go for it. You're eligible for any role possible. The movies are already out and been portrayed. This is a play. Do what you want. Go for it. Like, no one in their right mind gets mad when, let's say, um, I mean, some people do, actually thinking about it, but like, let's say you're an African American kid and you love Captain America and you dress up as Captain America for Halloween, and someone says, "Oh, you must be," or let's say Iron Man, right? Iron Man's a better example. And let's say like a little kid loves Iron Man. He's like, "Oh, I love Tony Stark. I want to be Iron Man for Halloween." Okay, so his dad gets him an Iron Man costume, and someone says, "Oh, are you War Machine?" Because the guy who plays War Machine is a black guy. And it's just like, "No, I'm not War Machine. I'm Tony Stark because he's really cool. I'm Iron Man." And he says, "No, no, no. You're War Machine." But if someone did that, that'd be really, really bad. But in J.K. Rowling's case, it's like you just say, "Oh, yeah, be what you want to be. You get that role, you earn it, you do it. Great. Kudos to you. I can't wait to see your take on Hermione." That's all you have to say. I wasn't going to say Captain Africa, no. God damn, that'd be funny. But no, I was just trying to think between, am I going to say black kid or am I going to say African American? I don't know. But then I said black guy. Like, I have more disdain for calling someone a black kid as opposed to calling a guy black. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I find it weird to modify the word kid with a race. Because to me, a kid's a kid. They're still, like, they're like, I'm more of a blank slate kind of guy. So if a kid's a kid's a kid's a kid. I don't like putting modifiers in front of a kid. A kid is a kid. But when someone's an adult, it's like, well, yeah, that's a man. Like, I don't know. Just weird for me. Yeah, for sure. Exactly. But yeah, Rowling should have just been like, yeah, sure, do what you want. Put your best foot forward and give us a show. But there is evidence in the books. There is a line in the books that says, "The sun shined on Hermione's white face." So that totally backfires when J.K. Rowling went on to say, "I never really imagined Hermione with a race in mind at all, just that she had curly hair and that she was a girl." Like, that's what she had said, but if you read the books, and someone pointed out that line, that yeah, Hermione was envisioned to be a white girl. She's British. Like, in a time set in like the 1990s or the early 2000s, look, of course she's British. Like, but that's just another tangled mess. Like, she's trying to retcon books by adding in extra stuff that sounds somewhat progressive. Like, it doesn't age well. It's like when you have finely aged wine and then someone drops, you have a finely aged wine and then you add some more wine to the bottle, you've now contaminated the wine. It's not the original intent. Yeah, Vlextrus, yeah. Exactly. And Tyler, I'm, as an author myself, I agree. Like, you're saying races should be the same in movies. We don't need a white ice cube in movies. Dressing up is a different opinion. Just like gets... Oh, Death Note, yeah. Like, for me, it's like, if you're doing... Like, for me, like, in the movies, it's the movies. But if it's a play, it's different. Like, it's lowball. Because, like, the thing about the actor for the Hermione in the play, that was, like, a Broadway thing. Like, that's a play. That's, like, a homebrew. That's not the official movie adaptation of this book. Like, you can't do an official movie adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird and Atticus is not white. The story would not play out. It would not work. It is set in a specific setting. The characters' races are part of their character. They're not some arbitrary trait that can just flimsy, fluid change to whatever they want to be. In a certain, it depends on the movie. It totally does. It depends on the context of the medium you're representing. But if it's just a play, it's free ball. Do what you want. It's your play. Yeah, exactly. Historic accuracy is a true thing. Like I was saying, for me as an author, I have some characters that I've envisioned them to be white or white Canadian. Like, even though my story may not specifically feature Canadian, they still are that kind of person. And I have black people too. It's just, and I have a character that's part of his heritage. He grew up in like a black setting and he talks in Ebonics. Now, if there was a movie adaptation of my book and they wanted to cast and like a white guy to play my black character, and the white guy starts speaking in Ebonics and he starts saying everything line for line and nothing is doctored to represent the change in casting, then you're going to break immersion. Nothing's going to make sense, and the people will be like, well, what is this? Exactly. It's not a racist position to hold. It's just it's a matter of authenticity and regarding the author's intent. That's all it is. But if someone wanted to just shoehorn that in and just change things for the sake of changing things and not respecting the initial intent, that's a whole different story. Now, let's say in 1,000 years they want to redo like Hamlet, but because of evolution and mixing, there's no more white people, there's no more black people. Everyone is intermixed so much that everyone is one race because of, 1,000 years, I say that, but we're like thousands of years already. But let's say in a time where that happens, where no one is different color, everyone's intermingled so much to the point that everyone is just the same physical color, and that wouldn't work because melanonin is still a thing, and how much sun your skin absorbs reflects how much of a pigment your skin has. But let's say in such a world that existed and everyone's the same color, and then you try to do a reenactment of those old times, they wouldn't have, there'd be a lot of makeup involved. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, you could make a movie about slavery and the slaves are white. It just has to take place in Egypt and call it the Exodus. Like, but then they're not even white there either. They're Middle Eastern. So, yeah. Like, there's many different kinds of slaves. Like, that's, but, you know. But I want to read Tyler's comment. I kind of missed it. Plays are fine, but like they made Scarlett Johansson white and it got a lot of backlash because she should have been Asian. Oh, you're talking about like Ghost in the Shell? Like, yeah, it's a fair point to have. Yeah. Like, to be honest, right now the biggest thing that someone could poke at, but no one's going to, is the new Aladdin movie where Will Smith is Genie. Now, there's nothing wrong with Genie being Will Smith, but technically Genie should be Arabic, because it's the Arabian Nights. It's Genie. Like, but yeah, he is a genie though, but he's a jinn. Like, that's what he is. He's from that culture. Like, if he wasn't blue, then it'd be weird. If it wasn't blue, then it'd be really weird. Because then it'd be like, I'm a genie, and it's just like a black guy. Like, let's just say it's not Will Smith. It's just like, but you're a genie. But it's like, it's not, but you are, but you're not. It's like, it'd be like, everyone would just raise an eyebrow. Like, it's cool that he's blue because it is Disney's Aladdin. That's the thing. It's Disney's take on Aladdin. It's not traditional Aladdin. So, and Jafar's a red genie. That's true too. Jafar's red. He is also a magical entity, but I'm pretty sure they resembled Arabic people. To be honest, like, here's my like high tier opinion on magical creatures based off of location is that when magical entities present themselves to humans or are discovered by humans, they're usually always seen in some big flash disorienting light before the person's eyes focus on them and then they see them for their form. And basically magical entities or godly entities generally always appear to people in a form that mirrors their own in some way. You know, like, let's say for example, like had Jesus been born in the Americas, he would have looked at Indian. He would have looked Native American. Like, you know, it's all relative. It's all relative. Like, that's just how I feel it is. Like, I feel like it's always relative to whoever sees it, you know? Yeah. Like, they'll appear in a form they understand. Hey, Yada. Hey, Mike. 9 p.m., yeah. Yeah, we're going a little over, but we're having a good conversation for sure. But good day. Alrighty. See ya. Jesus was brown? At the end of the day, Jesus was Jesus. And we're thankful that he was. But yeah, he was definitely not Caucasian. He wasn't from the Europeans. For sure. For sure. For sure. Got to play a game of some kind? Alrighty, man. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Hopefully it's not Final Fantasy 14. For sure. Alright, I think we had a really good discussion, guys. Like, I'm glad I got the point around about, you know, this terms of service thing of Final Fantasy. I don't think it's right. I think it's really bad. And I don't want to see it anywhere near Onigiri. You can two-hit the boss? That's cool. Lame, but cool. Discount for veteran players. The veterans all get kicked out for wrong think. But yeah. I'm looking really. I'm actually really excited to see if any more videos from other YouTubers are going to come up about these ToS. Because I can't wait to watch them and see what they think about them. Because I can't be the only one. I looked up other videos, but I couldn't find much yesterday, so... can't wait to see what's going to come of it. Like, it's going to be one of those things that no one's going to give a shit until they crack down on it. Then they're going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's going to be one of those things. For sure. But, do you know how hard it would be... did I not have problems with tomes and scripts when I played? I didn't play. The only reason I'm talking about it is because it's an MMO in the same sphere as Onigiri, because they're both on PS4. And what's happening in one place, I don't want to come here. You know? It's the same thing as, like, in Britain, they literally have Thoughtcrimes. If you like a tweet that promotes some opinion that is not shared by the elitist upper class of Brussels, then the police will go to your house and interrogate you for hate speech. I don't want that shit to cross the Atlantic Ocean. I'm going to talk about it now with Final Fantasy because I don't want that shit coming to Onigiri. I don't want to get infected. I want to get a vaccination against virtue signaling stupidity. That's the whole reason I'm making this video, is because I want these ideas to be heard at least in some uh, extent of my viewership, and have people realize that this stuff is bad. Because bad ideas lose to good ideas. And if the bad ideas don't, like, the sunlight will wash away the germs. Like, you know, that if you expose something, then naturally the sun will kill it. But if you let it fester and no one's allowed to talk about it, then now it's suddenly the boogeyman and it's invincible. You know? But yeah, guys, an hour and 45 minutes of stream. I really appreciate all the comments, all the discussion, all that stuff. I really appreciate it. So, you know, if you know any people that play Final Fantasy 14, ask them about it. What do you think of the new terms of service? Like, bring it up in discussion. Be like, and they'll be like, oh, what new terms? And explain it to them. I'm not directly asking you to share this video with them, because this video is an hour and 45 minutes long, but at least tell them to be like, hey, look at this stuff. Like, raise awareness. Be like, hey, do you condone this? Do you want to play this game? All that stuff, for sure. So yeah, Tyler, have a good day. Harai, see ya. Mike, have a good time. Hey Ken, yeah, no update this week. Maybe one next week. They're probably working on the Switch, so you know, don't be hasty. Just keep farming stuff, I guess. But yeah, guys, good video, good talk. Thanks for listening. Thanks for bouncing back some ideas, listening, and all that good stuff. You guys were a great audience, and I'll definitely see you guys next time. Bye. Yeah, I'm gonna yeet myself right out of here.